Hi everyone, my name is John Mearsma, and I want to welcome you to our Tech Talk, using POSTMAN with REST APIs to automate WebEx team tasks. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for popping in. Our Tech Talks are designed to be informal overviews, helpful hints, or just helpful demonstrations, taking topics. Sometimes we talk about the topic thousands of times in our classes and we want to make it available to everyone. Other times we take a topic that's not in any of our classes and we say, hey, let's try it out. Let's present it to the world for the first time. That's what we're doing with this. They asked me to choose topics for Tech Talk. I could have picked anything, things I've done in my sleep, but I thought, there's some new stuff coming out. Eventually, we're going to have to talk about it. Maybe other people are curious. I think it's interesting. I think it's fascinating. Let's do a tech talk on it. Let's have a discussion. Let me give you an overview, just a brief. Here's what it is. Here's what it does. Here's an example of how it works. Plant the seed, because it's something that all of us in technology, I shouldn't say every one of us, but most people are going to be working with in some capacity or another, automating. And I don't know about your experience, if you've looked at any of the automation, sometimes it can be a little challenging. Sometimes it feels like they're having a discussion. They're the in crowd, and it's challenging to figure out, okay, wait, but what do they mean? What does this mean? What does that mean? REST APIs, fortunately, I think it's one of the more easy to see and understand and work with when it comes to the umbrella of programmability. So it's something that I like. Hopefully we'll be able to spend more time talking about it. Hopefully it's something that is going to be incorporated more. I was first exposed to it when working, I can't say that for sure. I was first exposed to POSTMAN, which is a program that allows us to use REST APIs, working with Cisco Media Server. For the first time. Over a year ago, I was working with Media Server, and then all of a sudden I'm used to clicking and pointing with my mouse and making configuration changes. Drop down, add a phone, and all of a sudden I'm configuring Media Server, and I got these step-by-step directions, and it says, okay, go get this thing called POSTMAN and start using APIs. And I went, whoa, wait a minute. No. I don't want to go down this road. I want to go back to the GUI mouse click point. That's who I want those instructions. I don't know anything about this POSTMAN code programming. That's not me. I'm good. But I didn't find those instructions. And I realized, oh, this is something that, like it or not, we're going to be working with when it comes to certain products. And so that planted the seed that it ought to be something I should look into. So before I just start jumping in with configuring, I want to take a little bit, just not much, but a little bit of time and provide an overview. Here's what REST is, and here's the big picture. And then we'll use POSTMAN to do some interaction. And I will also show you where to go to get your own labs. If you have not spent time with Cisco DevNet, Cisco has tons of step-by-step guides, labs, just free for anyone to use. And so it's a great service. I'll show you how to access that yourself. We're going to get started with REST APIs and WebEx Teams. WebEx Teams is a program that's used for people to collaborate with, similar to what we're doing right now. But within your organization, you can send chats, you can escalate calls to videos. You can make phone calls with it. You can communicate with people in your organization using a centralized platform. This is intended, the audience for this course is intended to be those individuals. I probably could scratch out collaboration and just say admins. Recently, I spent some time going over data center. And that's where I was first introduced to the specifics of REST API, because they have an entire model of not only configuring servers, but switches. Their whole fabric is built on Cisco 9000 and 3000 series Nexus switches that you can program. You can push information into one device, one server, the APIC, that then pushes it out across all of the other switches. So anyone that works with technology can benefit from examining REST. And we're going to look at how REST works with WebEx Teams. What exactly is REST? What is REST and what is an API? REST is going to stand for Representational State Transfer. Essentially, things on servers are objects. When it comes to WebEx Teams, we can think of an object like a user, a room, a message. These are objects. On a router or switch, on a switch, an object is an interface, a routing table, a BGP process, the speed of an interface, the duplex of an interface. These are objects. And REST is a way to say, hey, listen, I'm going to need you to change this object. I'm going to need some information regarding this object. Can you go ahead and give me some information on the speed of the interface gigabit 2/3? Yeah, that object. I'm going to need the speed of that. Can you give me the statistics? So things are objects, and APIs give us the ability to interact with these servers and make changes. An application programming interface is a way for us to interact with the server. We interact now, or I like to, with a mouse and a keyboard. Programs can interact with servers using their APIs. Programmers, people that create servers, will make their APIs, or they will make it known so that other programmers can create programs to interact with their servers. An API enables two pieces of software, two different devices, to be able to communicate with each other. Software is going to interact with software. It's going to expose the functionality of a server, like WebEx Teams, to another application so that we can make changes. We can pull information, we can query, we can delete, we can add, we can update, because they're making that capability available via their API. We might interact with software ourselves by opening a web interface to access email. All right, so you got an email, you download the email, you read it, you're interacting with your email. That's how we as people will interact. Software can interact as well. Instead of humans, software. So we have an example of our software system, which is going to ask for data. We need you to do something. So our software can be command line. Tomorrow we're going to do almost the same talk, but I'm going to use Python. Instead of POSTMAN, I'm going to write a script just in a text file that I put into a program, and I'm going to use that to send API requests to WebEx Teams using command line, just from a browser or just from a command line window. Instead of having a specific program, you can open up the command line interface, or you can open up your PowerShell on your computer if you're using Windows, and you can write code that sends information. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a specific program. It's just asking the software for requests, and then the software returns an answer. So we ask its API, its interface, we're asking it to do something, and then it gives us a response. Obviously, the real benefit is automating this, when we can automate it and eliminate the user from much of this. An example, since APIs give us the ability to create rich applications that have a wide variety of functionality. I mean, to try to explain the web to somebody. Okay, so what is a web page? How many of them? Oh, no, web pages, there's tons of web pages that give you the ability to interact with and get information. And so APIs are the same way. There's many of them because there's all different types of servers. So they give us the ability to interact, provide many functions, And in this example, suppose we create a restaurant recommendation app. So we've got an app that's going to recommend where you should go to eat. When users search for a restaurant, we want our app to return a list of relevant restaurants, including a map. We got this great app. Download it, put in your address, and we're going to show you where you should go and how to get there. The problem is we would have to go out and create our own program, our own map, and that's not really our business. So we would have to create some type of framework that has restaurants and maps, and that's not exactly what it is we're trying to accomplish. So instead, we could use APIs to interact with a third-party device, Google Maps, or something that provides a third-party mapping capability. So our app can go query an existing server, an existing database. We can ask it for information. Users put in their address. Our app goes to Google's map using the API and requests, hey, based on this zip code and these criterias, give us some restaurants. And then we can return that to the user who's using our app. So our app can send a request to the map server's API and get map data in return. And then the user can see. So we as developers can use existing databases our program can interact with rather than create from scratch. Now, what's REST? Representational state transfer. It's an architecture style for designing network applications. It essentially is going to use HTTP. It's going to use HTTP to send messages. It can send GET, POST, PUT, delete. So it's going to use HTTP, send a URL to a server saying, listen, I want to get some information from you. I want to change something. I want to get rid of something. I want to update something. Uses HTTP. And then the device that we're sending this to has an API. So REST it's a way of interacting. The API is built in on the device we're talking to, and REST is how we can communicate with that API. We're going to combine the two. An API that utilizes REST architecture is able to retrieve or manipulate data on the server. So we can send a request, get, put, delete, post to the API of the device. The device does something, deletes, changes, updates, queries, returns our information, sends us a response. Now the response is going to be in either JSON format, it could be an XML format, it could be text. In fact, we can even specify how we want our response. So it's not, well, it's a combination. The URL plus we're also going to be working with information, again, JSON, XML, or text. And then the end result is that something happens. Now, here is one of the absolute key components of our REST, and that's going to be the API, or excuse me, the URL, all these acronyms, URL. And I want this very important to see what the URL does, the role of the URL. So when we send a request, we're going to be using HTTP or HTTPS. That's the protocol. Then we have where we're sending it to, which is the host. The host can be an IP address, can be the name. We're sending it to the API over the web. The resource path, this is going to be the object. The path returns a modeled running configuration. So when you look at switches, you'll see the resource, the thing that we want to change, the object. Or if you look at WebEx Teams, we're going to look at the object, a room, a message. These are objects, and we can ask, we can make changes to, we can query, we can ask for information regarding the object. And then we have parameters. And there's many varieties, just like there's many varieties to these. It depends what exactly you're asking for. The parameter could be a query, a filter. So, hey, I want you to show me information on the user resource, but I want you to filter it to John. And then it will return information on the user object, John. Or you could filter it on a variety of options. So we're going to be sending URIs to the API, asking it to reference an object, and then again, we can filter or scope to narrow down the search. Now, the requests, you might hear people refer to this as CRUD. That's how I learned it. But essentially what we're doing is we're going to be posting, which means create. Create is create, read, update, and delete. Create, read, update, and delete. CRUD, those are the things that we can ask a server to do using REST. We can send a post message, which means I need you to create something. If we want to query, or we could say a get message, we're asking the object to read something. So we're going to send an HTTP URI to an object in the API, and we're going to be using a get, give us some information, or a post, change something. Put, patch are updates, queries, making an update to an object, and then deleting is deleting. So we can send a delete message. This is the HTTP option, and this is essentially what it's doing. Now, if you've worked with SIP, it's the one I think of, but certainly if you've done any HTTP work, heck, if you browse the web, we're using these requests. The other side has to give us a response. The other side has to give us a response. So when you ask for something, you're going to get a response back. If it's a success, you're going to get a 200 level response. No problemo. Everything's good. Same thing it is in SIP. When you make a SIP phone call, you send out an invite request, you get a response. 200 means they answered. 400 is going to be a client issue. You sent a bad request. You're not authorized. Resource not found. No idea what it is you're asking for. 500 level are going to be something's wrong with the other side, the server. So whoever's sending the request is the client. Whoever's sending the response is the server. So it doesn't physically mean necessarily server in so much as one side is asking for something, that's the request, the other side gives a response. And so just by looking at the response, you can have an idea where the potential issue is. A 500 level, look at the object giving the reply. Okay, we're not done yet. Now, with that in mind, there are many ways to go about this, but I'm going to show you a few things real quick. Give you a couple examples. So here is Cisco Spaces, WebEx Spaces. And Spaces are rooms where you can be a member and send chats, and they just maintain, they're persistent. The rooms are going to be there. There are no rooms currently listed in Spaces. So what we're going to do is we're going to create some rooms using the REST API. I want to show you a couple things. Number one, we have POSTMAN, which is a free program you can use. And then I also want to use the Cisco WebEx page. See, the cool thing is developers, looking at the developer page is what really helped me to understand, or at least have a grasp of what's going on with REST, because they're publishing this information. They want you to know how to interact with their server. They want you to know how to send GET requests or POST requests. They're telling you how to do it. And so we can look at those. So here on Cisco's developer for WebEx, if we log in or just go into the developer for WebEx, and then they have a section here, REST APIs. Okay, getting started gives us some information. It's also going to give me my access code. See, I can't just send a message to a Cisco WebEx server. It's a cloud-based server. I have an account. You could have an account. We can't just send messages, an HTTP message, and have WebEx go, oh yeah, no problem, I'll do that for you right now. Who are you? So we have to have a credential. Well, one of the ways is you can have a username and a password, and you can put that in your GET request. Or you can get a token. They give us a token that's good for 12 hours. And so I signed in, I logged in, I'm logged in as myself. So I can then come in and get a token. It's good for 12 hours. And then if I were to paste this into a document, that's what it looks like. So that's my token that's good for 12 hours. And I'm going to use that as I interact with, I'm going to use that. All right. Now, let's come over here under REST API and take a look. They give us some information on basics. They kind of explain some things, but take a look at API reference. Now, this is them telling you, oh, okay, here's all of our objects within REST, and here's what you can do. Here are your options. Oh, great. If you want to, for device, let's say I click REST API device, and they're going to give us the URIs. Say, okay, for devices, here is under devices, under REST API, under API reference, devices. If we want to get some information, if we want to list devices, here's the URI you're going to use. HTTPS webexapis.com v1/devices. So if you want to list a device, we can use this command and then make sure that you choose get. So you're going to use HTTP get, and you're going to put the URI in. It will it'll resolve using DNS. It'll resolve to Cisco server. And as long as I include my authorization token, it will authenticate, and it will give me a response in XML or JSON format. It will tell me, here are the devices that are in your spaces. Okay. And so you can see this for all of their different, if you want to delete a device, then you're going to use a delete request. So you're going to go into POSTMAN, or tomorrow we'll use Python to write a script out, and we're going to delete. And then you're going to use this URI, send it to that URI, asking to delete a device. And then you're also going to have to include which device to delete. See, it takes more than just the URI. This is the URI you use, but you're going to have to tell me what to delete. So we can also include information in our request, which I'll show you. We could post, which creates a device activation code. Again, it makes a change. Posts are going to make changes. Get will pretty much asking for information, or we can delete. So they give us all of their functionality over here under API reference. If we want people, okay, here's what you can do with people. You can list people. All right, how would I list people? By sending a GET request to this URI. Okay, let's take a look at rooms. I'll go down to rooms because there's all kinds of useful information. And they're going to give us the list. So what I'll do is I was messing with this, so we might have a room or two show up first. We'll see. If not, we may get some rooms. If we don't, fine. We're going to go ahead and create some rooms. So we'll create a room and then we'll list some rooms. So in order to list a room, we have to post to that URI, and then we're going to have to include the authorization and the rooms to create. So let me show you using that. And we're going to use POSTMAN. So to do this, we're going to go into POSTMAN. I'm going to make a new API. And so POSTMAN's like, all right, what do you want to do? You want to interact with some server somewhere. Would you like, what type of message do you want to use? We could do get, post, put, patch, delete. You can see all these HTTP options. Because POSTMAN isn't just for REST, it's for any API. We're going to be sticking with get, post, delete, and maybe put. Most of the things that we're going to do in WebEx Teams will resolve around get, post, and delete. So we're going to start with post. We're going to post something. And then we have to know what exactly where. So in order to create a room, we're going to post, and then they give us the URI, https://api.cisco. See, there's a couple. I'm using Cisco Spark, but you can also use the example they gave us, which is, they've renamed it. And if you go to the Cisco's website, they'll tell you that. They'll say, hey, we have renamed Cisco Spark. It's no longer called Cisco Spark. Don't call it Cisco Spark. Not anymore. See if I can get it to pop up. It might be a pop-up. When you sign in to the WebEx developer, you'll see a, let me sign out and sign in. I'll show you something. Right here. This is what I was looking for. I had to sign out to get it. The REST API has a new host name. It is now WebEx.apis.com. And if you click on that, it'll give you a little bit of information. And it simply just says, yeah, we'll allow you to use Cisco Spark and our new WebEx APIs. So it's just a little telling you that it'll use both. So you can also use Cisco or api.ciscospark.com. Sure, that's fine. We'll let you use that for a while. And you can also use webexapis.com instead. That's all. So it's just kind of a heads up. Okay. Now, there's no space here. No spaces are listed. So we're going to create a post request. Now, I have to go into authorization. And then there's, again, different types of authenticating. You could use username, password. I know when I was sending messages to Cisco switches, Cisco 9000 series switches, I had to have a username and a password on the switch, and I would put it in POSTMAN, and then that's how I authenticated to the switch. And every time you send a message, you have to include that. Every time. So for this, we're going to use bearer token, and then this is the token that I put in there, which again, I got from the WebEx for Developers page by signing in. All right, and so we've got that. Then under headers, if I'm going to create a room, I have to tell it like what room. I got the right URI, that's going to affect the object, but what is the room that you're going to create? What's it called? So in order to do that, and what I'm going to do is add a content type. I'm going to tell it, hey, I need to create a header. Content type. And let's see if I can move this a little. No, trying to expand on it a little bit. Content type. So I'm going to add that header. And then I want the content type to be JSON. So I'm going to add application JSON. Then under the body is going to be what I'm going to be including. I'm running out of room here. Let me expand it. There we go. There's our body. Okay. Things are getting a little crushed here. So I've got a post request. Then under headers, I added a content type application. Now under body, I'm going to include something. So I'm going to choose raw, and you can attach information that you want to include in your post request. And I'm going to include in JSON format. So I've got my brackets, parentheses title, parentheses, or quotes title, quotes Cisco test. That's the name of the room that I'm going to create. So I'm sending a post request to the URI that their API will respond, and I'm telling it to create the room, to change an object, essentially. And then I would expect to get a response. Now that I've done that, let's click send and unauthorized. Okay, that is fine. So let's see, authorization. Let's go back. Maybe my token has changed since I signed out. Oh, I signed out and then I signed back in, didn't I? To show you. So let me go grab my new token, copy, click OK. But that's a fine example. I get a 401. And the 401 message, if we look over here, we can see it tells us that we get a 401 and what's in it. And it's going to include this in JSON format. If you want it, you might be able to change it. You can change it to XML, and there's the XML answer. You can change it to JSON or XML in this example. Fine. Let's go into authorization, change my header or my token, and everything should still be there. Rooms, body, now I get a 200 OK because I had the right code. Every time you sign out, you get a new code. So I sent a request, I sent a put request to WebEx, and they give me an OK back. And if we look at WebEx Teams, hopefully we see Cisco test. We see the room there that I just made. So we can make changes. Now, I mean, I'm just showing the lightest of light. But the idea is, imagine if you had to, you can use this for tons and tons of reasons, but you can write scripts. We're going to, with Python, they can run, they can automate. But you could use this to just write very quickly. I mean, it's much faster than logging in and creating a room when you have all this loaded, and you could just post it pretty quickly using a program like this. And again, if we take a look at the options that are available on the developer page, and this is just for WebEx Teams under API reference, people, places, organizations. You want to send messages? You can send messages, list messages, create a message. We can send a post to create a message. We can get message details, delete messages. I mean, all the different components, add rooms, add roles, teams. Okay. Now, what I've done is I've sent that. Now let's send a GET request, which is going to get, we'll just ask for, hey, show us the rooms that are created. So we're going to do new API. This time it's going to be a GET request. Got to have the URI. a URL added. I talk about SIP so much with URIs that that's just what I call it. URL authorization should still be in, since Postman does a nice job of caching that. So it's cached, and that should just be it. Since I'm not sending information, I'm just asking for the rooms. I'm not attaching any body. I'm just asking, hey, can you give me your rooms? And I get a 200. Yeah, here you go. And then here are the rooms. And again, this is going to be in a JSON format. And so we get a response based on the rooms. And it tells us there's a room, Dallas Cowboys, that I've made that I got out of that's still there, so I could delete it. Oh, let me show you this. In addition, and there's many formats. I mean, I like Postman because knowing, all right, I can interact and I got the drop downs and add this stuff. Postman's pretty simple to work with. It's free, but you don't need it. Tomorrow I'll demonstrate using just a command line interface and essentially do the same thing. We'll even send messages tomorrow using command line interface. But you don't even need any of that. You can go right to Cisco's website and they have a try it. They've got a try it option. If you go in here, and I'll send this to you guys. I'll send the WebEx, developer WebEx, if you want to sign up. Essentially, just sign in or create your own username and password. And then from there, this is available to anyone. And so what you can do under REST API, it's about all there is. REST API. Let's go to the reference. And let's say that rooms. And one of the options is let's list rooms. Click it. Try that again. Click it. And you can run these right from the web page. That's what I'm trying to show you. And in order to do that, maybe I accidentally opened with Internet Explorer. It doesn't like Internet Explorer at all. That's probably why. There's really the only thing I use Internet Explorer is I still like to use it when I log in with to my Cisco servers. Other than that, I don't have a great reason for it. Let me use Google Chrome, go to Rooms, Get, click on it. Okay, so this is what I want to show you. Once you go in, under REST APIs, choose it, REST API reference, and it's going to show you all of the different APIs that you could use. License, devices, rooms, roles. Click on any one of them. Click on one. So I've got, these are rooms. Let's say I want to list rooms. Click it, and then you get this. And it lets you, this is going to act like Postman. It lets you send the request within the web page, which can be useful too. Try it. It's under the try it, and it tells you the URI. And it's going to have your tokens already there because it knows who you are. You're signed in. So it's all there. And then it's going to ask you to query. If you have specific information, you can query. You could say, show me types or sort by. And then over here, it gives you examples of what you could query. Certain types of groups, certain users. So we can go in and add some information, or we can just use this to query and run it. And then it gives us a response. It tells us right there in the web page, Cisco test, Dallas Cowboys. Let's see if we can delete Cisco test. Let's see if we can go back to rooms, choose to delete a room. It's going to have the URL loaded for us, the bearer token, and then it's going to need to know the room ID. We'll drop down, we'll put in Cisco test. See if that's going to work. All right. So this doesn't terribly surprise me because I was having little bit of a challenge pulling some of this information out earlier. So I'm not going to freak out too much about that. But it's an example. It's something that it's easy to use to demonstrate. Cisco WebEx. Again, you can also, I would be remiss if I didn't show you something that really helped me. So let me do that as well. And then I'll wrap it up. Okay. If you haven't already, and this is, you're even remotely interested in any of this, and you really want to be able to go in there and do some things. I mean, what I'm showing you is just the simplest of the simple, the basic. But if you really want to spend some time and get serious with it, one of the tools that you may want to look at are Cisco DevNet resources and labs, because they'll give you equipment for days. You can sign up, get your own call manager, your own Unity, your own IM and present server. They'll give it to you. It used to be for a week. I'd go sign in for a week, work on 9000 series switches, Cisco ACI, APIX. I mean, you just have these elaborate designs. Now, since the last couple months, there's a big demand. It's only 2 days. But then you can sign every 2 days. You can just keep signing up, and then they give you this. They give you access to all this. So number one, you can go into the sandbox and sign up for all kinds of access. But you could also just go to DevNet and go into labs or modules or challenges, labs, and they'll have all kinds of labs. Oh, what's Get? Okay, let's take a look. Here's an introduction to Get. Here's how to set up your own computer. I've never done any of this before. No problem. If you got a Windows, here's how you do it. And then they'll walk you through what you need to do to get Windows set up. It's 10 pages. They want to make sure Windows is set up. But they'll have you install all the software that you need in order to go through these labs. Okay. Now that you're done with that, we can go back to the labs and go through it. And it'll then walk you through 5 pages. So it's not elaborate, but it's free. And then it walks you through whatever topic you're interested in. And it's very simple to read. I think they did a fantastic job. It's free. And this is just one out of thousands of topics. And it will walk you through the step-by-step to do whatever it is you're interested in learning about. If you want to know about collaboration, there you go. What do you want to know about collaboration? Conferencing, Jabber, Jabberguest, REST, WebEx. I mean, whatever interests you. How to embed Jabberguest video and voice into a web application. 5-minute lab. Hey, that's pretty cool. There you go. And it'll walk you through how to go about doing that. And then they'll kind of, so they're very useful. They're free. And then if you're really interested, you could go into the DevNet sandbox, which they always seem to do a good job of hiding. You just got to go find it and then save it. Definitely save it. And DevNet is for data center. There's an enormous amount of, there's lots of data center. 36 labs, 27 labs for collaboration. There's the whole track right there where you can just get started. So I will send this to you as well in case you're interested to continue the learning process on your own. It's free. And when you go to sign in, they give you like 7 different options. Sign in for Google, sign up for Cisco, sign in with your 3rd grade reading card, username, password. Whatever you got, they'll take it. You can just sign in with it and get started on the labs. Whatever interests you. If you want to get some of the physical, you want to use your own unified communication manager for a couple days, you want the sandbox. Search DevNet sandbox. Same thing. Sign up for a lab, it's yours. And then you can use it. Tomorrow, same time, we're going to continue. Very similar discussion. I don't know if we'll have the same audience, but I'm going to go through the rest again, the same slides in the beginning. But tomorrow, my demonstration will be a little bit more in depth using Python. And we'll make some configuration changes to WebEx teams using Python, which again is just going to be using the same CRUD, create, read, update, delete, But instead of using Postman, we'll just use command line to submit information to the server. If that's something that interests you, you are more than welcome to join us tomorrow, same time as today. But that's going to bring my demonstration to the end. I want to thank you for participating. Thank you for being here. I'm more than happy to take questions. If you have some questions, I'll happy to take them if you'd like. Otherwise, have a great day. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.